train, for its type, is the most powerful vehicle on land. And the engines of Sodor are the power behind the docks, industries, and branch lines that make up the world-renowned Northwestern Railway. These are the stories of Sodor. Mummy, look, it's Thomas. I see him, Kenny. Hi, Thomas. Hello there. I'm sorry. Do I know you? Sorry, Thomas. My son's been reading that new book about you. Oh, I see. Hello. Kenny, is it? Yep, that's me. Where are Annie and Clarabelle? Percy's taking them today. Who's Percy? Hasn't Wilbert written a book about him yet? Well, Percy's a friend of mine. Are you friends with all the engines? Yes, of course. Even Gordon? Yes, even Gordon. Even after he pulled you along behind his express? After he what? That's my favourite story. All right, Kenny, come along. I'm sure Thomas has a lot of work to do. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us, Thomas. No worries. Is there something you didn't tell me, Lachlan? What sort of something, Thomas? Don't go on like that. You said Wilbert wrote a book about me. What was it about? Hold up a moment. It looks like the lads have fixed the points. We can head off now. So are you going to tell me about this story or not? Which one, Thomas? All the way to the mine, Thomas's driver told him about the recently released book that chronicled a number of his supposed hijinkses, like being trailed behind Gordon at high speeds, his trouble with trucks, and rescuing James after he had an accident. Our number one was awash with mixed feelings on the matter, which were reminiscent of the rest of us. It should come as no surprise that I'm talking about the Railway series of children's books published by Reverend Wilbert Awdry. Of course, we all knew about these books from the day they were released on May 12, 1945. And after they began growing in popularity, we were admittedly thrilled by the prospect we would gain a measure of celebrity. It certainly was a joy when people began asking us of our escapades. Unfortunately, that's where the problems began to emerge. As time went on and more books were released, visitors to Sodor began asking about events that were either inaccurate or entirely fictional. Some took it a step further and even insulted us for poor behavior that we never exhibited. This latter issue annoyed some more than others. Gordon, you're getting worked up over nothing. Easy for you to say. That wretched book depicted you as a sympathetic victim, while I was shown to be an aggressive bully. And then there is the disgraceful attitude I displayed, refusing to shut my own coaches and pull goods trains. You can hardly deny that's who you used to be. Exactly, who I used to be, not who I am now. Why didn't Wilbert feel it necessary to write about such a change? Character progression is a staple of literature. So is the reality that an author often writes fiction based on actual events and people. And that's just what it is, fiction. A writer will often make changes in order to appeal to their target audience, which in this case is children. But must it be done by defaming the character of said inspirational figures? Well, if you want to talk about defamation of character, old boy, I would say Henry copped it worse than you. Yes, indeed. I would have to agree. Once an engine attached to a train was afraid of a few drops of rain. It went into a tunnel and squeaked through its funnel and wouldn't come out again. Yes, that's very funny. Bye, Henry. Bye-bye. Yeah, we plant. I don't believe it. This is outrageous. around saying that ridiculous rhyme about me. Ugh, I swear, I'm going to hiss steam at the next git who does. What? No, nothing. Come along, Sam. Out with it. Well, I'm not going to say it, Henry, so you needn't wish me. But, is it true? Did you really hide in the tunnel because of a bit of rain? Of course not. Have you forgotten that rain is water, an essential ingredient to our means of propulsion? A steam engine that's afraid of water is more ridiculous than a pilot who's afraid of heights. But then again, the true version I would hardly consider family-friendly. There's a true version? Oh, yes. Shall I? Go ahead. Once an engine attached to a train heard the whir of the Nazi planes. With a squeak of his funnel, he hid in the tunnel and waited until it was safe again. Nazi planes? Aye. It was the night the Blitz came to Sodor. I was taking a passenger train at the time and heard the planes flying overhead. By some great miracle, I was near Ballyhoo Tunnel and dashed inside so fast I nearly popped out the other end. I waited for what felt like hours, hearing the distant explosions as Knapford was being bombed to oblivion. And then came one blast so loud I was nearly rocked off my rails. That would have been the blast that claimed the life of a dear friend of ours. Oh, I'm so sorry. Who was it? His name was Colin, and he died taking a train of gunpowder vans out of the yard in order to prevent a greater loss of life. In light of such details, Henry, perhaps it is understandable why the Reverend wrote his story the way he did. Maybe, but it still burns my boiler. And I'm serious. If anyone else starts to say it, once an engine attached to a train, oh, nice. All right there, Adam? No, Drolin, I am not. Oh? Is something wrong? I took a passenger train this morning, and the entire time I was waiting at the platform, they kept asking, do you know Edward? Do you know Henry? Do you know Gordon? Do you know Thomas? It was very annoying. It sure sounds like it was. And when I introduced myself, most just gave a dismissive, yes, we know, and then walked off. Are you surprised? No, not really. But I am surprised none of them asked about Colin or Lily. That's because the Reverend hasn't written anything about them. And I don't think he will. Which is a disgrace. They died as heroes and deserve to be recognized for it. I had a similar conversation with James just before the reshuffle. He was put out by the fact Mr. Starr was omitted and replaced by the fact controller. In light of recent events, I say this was a strange case of life imitating art. Why do you think the Reverend wrote that Sir Topham was always our boss? Maybe because he's more well known. That'd explain why Mr. Zorro wasn't included. Though I will say, Sir Topham's depiction in the Railway series hasn't exactly been favourable. What sort of controller would be daft enough to wall up an engine inside a tunnel? That's not only uneconomical, it's impractical. Sounds like a good idea to me. And you know what else? None of us minis have been shown in the books, which suits me just fine. That's not what you said last month. Last month, I hadn't heard all the stories. Then the ones about Thomas came out. And you know what? Let the nor'easters have all the humiliation. Come on, Diesel. You're not going to fall back into old habits, are you? No, I'm just saying. And I'm just saying to you, Diesel, I need you to shunt some extra coaches for the next train. Extra coaches? How many more? 5. 5? Are we getting a royal visit or something? It's all these tourists. The extra work is annoying, but the additional fares are welcome. Get those coaches sorted, Diesel, sharpish. Right, yeah. As I mentioned before in passing, many visitors to Sodor asked us of our exploits. And indeed, those same visitors had come to the island because of the growing popularity of the Railway series. This rise in tourism was warmly welcomed and led to an increase in revenue for the council, which they then used to invest in a number of projects, one of which I will discuss in a future story. I will say, however, it did get a bit grating having to explain to these people what had and hadn't happened to us. And it did become obvious that only engines of the Nor'easters had been featured in the series up to that point. This created jealousy and resentment and threatened to reignite the rivalry that had once divided us. I said move those tankers over there. Why? What's wrong with where they are? It's blocking access to a train I'm trying to marshal for Peter. Well, if I put them over there, I won't be able to use the turntable, and I need to get back to Ellsbridge in half an hour. Then move your bunker and your train while you're at it. I have a better idea. You move my train, I'll move my bunker. Nor'easter nitwit, Midi more. Oh, bother! Well done, you daft git. Now I'm stuck in this siding. I'm fine, by the way. Thanks for your concern. Thank you, Mickey. Not a worry, Percy. I'm just glad it wasn't something more serious. Unless you count stupidity as serious. Don't be surprised if Wilbert doesn't write a book about you after this. What are you on about, Adam? Don't mind him, Chief. He's just mad because he knows war criminals don't belong in children's books. Why, you son of a... Knock it off, the both of you. Are you seriously getting bent out of shape over a silly children's book? Sure sounds like it. Good morning, Sir Topham. Morning, Leonard. I take it you've seen today's issue of the Sudrian Tribute? Indeed. Children's book leads to accident? The media certainly know how to create a misleading headline. Tell me it isn't true. I checked, Sir Topham. No, it isn't. That's a relief. Then why did this reporter imply that it was? Probably because it'll sell a lot more copies. But I'm told Percy and Adam began arguing about the railway series in the aftermath of the incident. This is rather concerning, Leonard. I need to nip this in the bud before it blossoms into something worse. What did you have in mind, Sir Topham? I'm going to address the engines, but I shan't do it alone. Don't give me that, James. You were slow getting out of Knapford, which meant I was late getting to Barrow. The only reason I was slow, Peter, was because Donald dallied on the turntable. I dallied because the stupid thing jammed. That wasn't my fault. Funny how things always seem to break or go wrong when a MIDI is about. Eh, Gordon? Indeed, Henry. They could benefit from some nor'easter tutelage. And what exactly could you teach us? How to break down on hills, or how to race a bus at high speeds with a fully loaded passenger train? How dare you, Reginald? What an insult! It's disgraceful! Disgusting! Despicable! Mind if I use that? Wilbert? Is that you? Hello, Gordon. Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you all. Likewise, what brings you back to Sodor? My invitation. I have asked the Reverend here because I feel he can better explain the reasons why he wrote his books the way he did. But before he does, I would just like to say how disappointed I am. You all survived the war. Some of you braved the perils of the front line, and yet you go into a tizzy because of a collection of children's books. I expect my engines to be made of stronger stuff. Due respect, sir, those books didn't paint us in a positive light. You neither in some instances, and I don't let it upset me for the simple fact it is fiction. None of it happened the way it was described. Then why describe events in such a way to begin with? I will let the Reverend answer that. Thank you, Sir Topham. Yes, I use some of you as inspiration for my books, but I can't emphasize strongly enough that I never intended to slander any of you. As to why I wrote them the way I did, the answer is simple: to entertain children. In order to do that, I had to take liberties with certain events and make up others out of whole cloth. But why did you have to make them so outlandish? Because my son enjoyed them. Your son? He was ill a few years ago, and I told him stories using some of you as characters. He enjoyed them so much that I became inspired to write them down. It was my hope such stories could brighten the lives of other children. What about those who died during the war? Are you going to use them in your stories? No. It would be disrespectful and inappropriate to use a children's book to describe such losses. Not to mention those children reading them might not want to be reminded of the war. Exactly. You know, now that I think about it, it is kind of funny, hiding in a tunnel because of rain. And I suppose my past conduct does deserve to be remembered. At least it's done in a humorous way. Wilbert, at the risk of sounding vain, will the rest of you be in my stories? In truth, I haven't decided. I suppose only time will tell. To those of us working on the branch lines, Wilbert outlined his reasons for writing his stories the way he did. The Fat Controller also had a few stern words to deliver, ones that made us realize how silly it was we were letting ourselves be divided over a piece of fiction. I'm pleased to say the temporary rift that formed between us quickly closed, and we moved on like nothing had happened. Of course, throughout the years that followed, people still asked us about the events described in the Reverend's books. I won't lie, it sometimes gets annoying, but on the whole, it's been a thrill to speak with these fans. And I will say, not all of Wilbert's future stories would be fictional. Indeed, some would be rooted entirely in fact.